A single dandelion can shatter concrete with the force of 3 car tires. And that's just the beginning of nature's war on our cities. We think of cities as concrete fortresses, permanent monuments to human dominance over the natural world. But nature doesn't see it that way. To nature, every building is just another rock to colonize, every street a riverbed to reclaim. This is the story of the concrete ecotone, the hidden battlefield where biology and architecture are locked in an ancient struggle. First, let's understand how cities swallow nature. Urbanization is predicted to directly threaten 855 species through land expansion alone. Complex ecosystems are replaced by impervious surfaces, concrete, asphalt, and glass. This process is called biotic homogenization. Specialist species that need specific niches are wiped out, replaced by generalists. Cities thousands of miles apart now share the same pigeons, rats, and sparrows. But the most powerful weapon cities deploy isn't concrete, it's heat. Urban areas are 1 to 6 degrees Celsius warmer than their surroundings. This is the urban heat island effect. Building materials absorb and radiate heat. Vehicles and air conditioning pump warmth into the air. The heat island acts as an ecological filter. In France, researchers found heat-sensitive spiders were completely eliminated from urban cores. Only small, heat-loving species survived. Temperature alone, independent of habitat, was the primary driver of biodiversity loss. Add pollution to the mix. Nitrogen dioxide reducing pollinator efficiency, artificial light disrupting circadian rhythms, noise drowning out animal communication. So cities are hostile environments, thermal barriers, chemical wastelands, sensory nightmares. But here's where the story flips. Because nature fights back, and it fights back with physics. Inside every plant cell, water creates something called turgor pressure. Water floods into cells through osmosis, swelling them like tiny hydraulic pistons. This pressure can reach 0.6 megapascals, 6 atmospheres. That's 3 times the pressure inside a car tire. And roots don't drill through concrete. They find microscopic cracks and then expand. As cells swell inside the crack, they exert force on the concrete's tensile strength, widening it until the structure fractures. Soft tissue defeats stone. Meet the vanguard species, the biological stormtroopers of urban reclamation. First, the tree of heaven, Ailanthus altissima. This tree is allelopathic. It poisons the soil around it to kill competitors. A single female produces 350,000 seeds per year. Cut it down, and its root system sends up new shoots up to 50 feet away, sometimes right through building foundations. Then there's Japanese knotweed, growing 20 centimeters per day. Its underground rhizomes can extend 2 meters deep and 7 meters wide. It exploits cold joints, drains, and weak mortar. Once inside, the expanding rhizomes can separate brick walls and heave tarmac. They can lie dormant for 20 years. Even the humble dandelion is a master infiltrator. Its taproot drives down like a wedge, sometimes reaching a full meter deep beneath the pavement. Urban dandelions have even evolved shorter stalks and flatter leaves in trampled areas. Phenotypic plasticity letting them dodge lawnmowers and footsteps. But the most dramatic proof of nature's power comes when humans leave entirely. Hashima Island, Japan, once the most densely populated place on Earth. Abandoned in 1974, this coal mining fortress was once completely devoid of greenery. 50 years later, nature has consumed the concrete. In China, the fishing village of Hutuan was abandoned in the 1990s. In just 3 decades, it was completely swallowed by ivy. Even within inhabited cities, nature reclaims. In Detroit, depopulation left thousands of vacant lots. Trees 30 feet tall now grow inside abandoned factories. But nature's reconquest of cities isn't limited to plants. Animals are adapting to urban life in ways that border on the extraordinary. Consider the peregrine falcon, the fastest animal on Earth. Naturally, a cliff dweller, it now sees skyscrapers as artificial cliffs. New York City now hosts the world's largest urban population of nesting peregrines. City lights let them hunt at night, something rural falcons rarely do. Urban peregrines actually have higher breeding success than rural ones, thanks to an endless buffet of pigeons and starlings in the concrete canyons. In Chicago, 4,000 coyotes have made the metropolitan area their home. The Cook County Coyote Project has tracked them for decades. Contrary to myth, their diet is mostly rodents and fruit, not pets. Anthropogenic waste makes up as little as 2% of what they eat. They've become strictly nocturnal to avoid humans. Some have even learned to look both ways before crossing the street, waiting for gaps in traffic. In Rome, 6,000 wild boars roam the parks and streets. They've lost all fear of humans, raiding garbage bins and causing political crises. But perhaps the strangest urban adaptation story involves a mosquito. For decades, scientists believed a new species evolved inside the London Underground. The London Underground mosquito, Culex pipiens molestus, bites mammals instead of birds, mates in confined spaces, and never hibernates. A 2025 genomic study revealed the truth. This mosquito didn't evolve in the tube. It evolved 1,000 years ago in the ancient Mediterranean. It was pre-adapted to underground life through ancient agricultural practices, then simply colonized the modern subway system. Evolution had prepared it centuries in advance. In Fukushima's exclusion zone, another evolutionary experiment unfolds. Domestic pigs abandoned during the disaster hybridized with wild boars. The hybrids inherited one critical domestic trait, the ability to breed year-round instead of seasonally. Without human control, populations could explode. Urban noise has forced birds to literally change their tune. This is the Lombard effect, an involuntary rise in pitch and volume in noisy environments. City birds sing at higher pitches to be heard over low-frequency traffic rumble. Berlin nightingales sing 14 decibels louder than their rural cousins. Some robins have switched to singing at night entirely, using the quiet hours to broadcast their calls without competition from the daytime din. Now, here's the paradox that challenges everything. When humans evacuate entirely, even from nuclear disasters, wildlife doesn't flee. It thrives. The Chernobyl exclusion zone has become the third largest nature reserve in mainland Europe. Wolf densities are 7 times higher than comparable reserves. Brown bears, lynx, bison, and Przewalski's horses have all returned. The area now supports more wildlife than it did before the disaster. Eastern tree frogs near the reactor have evolved darker skin. Melanin acts as a radio protector, a rapid evolutionary response since 1986. In Fukushima, wild boar populations surged 300% in 5 years. Animals roam empty streets and breed in abandoned houses. Despite carrying cesium-137 at 300 times safe limits, there's no population collapse. Human habitation suppresses wildlife more than radiation does. So, if nature is this resilient, the question becomes, can we design cities that work with biology instead of against it? The answer is yes. Milan's Bosco Verticale, the vertical forest, hosts 900 trees, 5,000 shrubs, and 11,000 plants on just 2 residential towers. The towers host 1,600 specimens of birds and butterflies. They absorb 30 tons of CO2 per year and produce 52 kilograms of oxygen daily. In Seoul, they demolished an entire elevated freeway to uncover a buried stream. The Cheonggyecheon restoration is a masterpiece of reconciliation ecology. Temperatures along the stream dropped up to 5.9 degrees Celsius compared to nearby roads. Total biodiversity exploded by 639%. Plant species went from 62 to 308, fish from 4 to 25, insect species from 15 to 192. New York's High Line transformed an abandoned rail line into a park, using 50% native species to mimic the wild vegetation that grew on the derelict tracks. Singapore's super trees stand 50 meters tall, vertical gardens hosting over 160,000 plants while harvesting solar energy and collecting rainwater. The city of the future may not be a fortress against nature, but a specialized ecosystem in its own right. The concrete ecotone is just the beginning.